His wife's male comrade walked straight to the head seat at the general's birthday banquet. I picked up my bowl without a word and went to the kitchen. Then the general stood, slapped him across the face, and the whole hall went dead silent. That was the night of my father-in-law's 61st birthday. I'd shown up at the base banquet hall 2 hours early to run through everything myself. The menu, the drinks, the projector, the birthday peach, the seating chart. Isabella had asked me to. My dad's never had a proper birthday banquet in his life, she'd said. Put in some effort. Don't let my family's comrades laugh at us. So I'd booked the best Lakeview private room in the city, 18 tables, drinks billed separately, a $6,800 deposit already down. Then, 5 minutes before the banquet started, Isabella's comrade-in-arms, Alex, walked in without even taking off his coat and sat down in the seat of honor. Every eye in the room swung to me. My mother-in-law Margaret frowned for half a second, then smiled like she hadn't seen a thing. Alex, come sit. You're always so thoughtful. Make sure Isabella has a few extra toasts tonight. Isabella stood beside him, holding his coat. When she caught me watching from the main table, her face tightened, and she lowered her voice. Kane, it's my dad's birthday. Don't walk in here with that face on. Alex just got back from overseas. What's the harm in him sitting there for a minute? I looked at her. 5 years married, and for the first time her voice sounded like it was coming from somewhere far away. That's the seat of honor, I said. Alex just laughed, tapping his fingers on the table. Kane, come on, don't be so sensitive. The general isn't even here yet. I'm not taking anything by sitting for a minute. We're all family. Why draw such hard lines? Family. The word came so easily out of his mouth that no one in the room even blinked. Isabella actually relaxed, like he'd handed her an exit. She tugged at my sleeve. See? He didn't mean anything by it. You're the one making this into something. I looked down at her hand on my arm. The same hand that had gripped mine the day we got our marriage certificate and promised. No matter what happens, I'll always be on your side. The same hand that had since straightened Alex's tie, handed him glasses of water, taken my car keys off the hook, and waved off every objection I'd ever raised with he's just a comrade. Don't be so petty. A man should have some vision. 5 years of hearing that. I didn't say anything for a couple of seconds. Then I picked up the bowl in front of me. Isabella froze. What are you doing? Kitchen's short on bowls, I said. I'll grab some. My mother-in-law jumped right in. That's right, Kane, go on, hurry up, and stop blocking the doorway while you're at it. It's your father-in-law's birthday. You're the son-in-law here, act like it. A couple of the comrades nearby chuckled. Isabella married well. Kane's handy to have around. Earns his keep, does what he's told. Bit quiet, though. Not much of a talker. I turned toward the door with the bowl in my hand. I'd barely reached it when a voice cut through the room from behind me, cold and heavy. Who told him he could sit there? The whole room went still. I turned around. My father-in-law, General William Harper, was standing in the doorway in his dark gray uniform, his face like a closed fist. He'd been a base commander in his younger years, and retirement had never softened him. 5 years I'd been married to his daughter, and he'd never once been warm toward me, but he'd never taken advantage of me either. Every time I brought the Harper family anything, he'd make me take half of it back, telling me a young couple's life was their own and I shouldn't run myself dry for them. Fewer and fewer people in that house still listened to him, though. Margaret's face shifted. She stepped forward quickly to smooth things over. Old William, Alex just sat down for a second. Don't get worked up on your own birthday, Margaret said. William didn't even look at her. His eyes were locked on Alex. Alex got to his feet, putting on that gentle, harmless look of his. General, happy birthday. You weren't here yet, so I figured I'd greet everyone on your behalf. Nothing more to it than that. William walked toward him, one slow step at a time. Isabella must have felt where this was going, because she moved fast, putting herself between them. Dad, Alex meant well. Don't make a big thing of it, your comrades are all watching. William stopped right in front of the head seat. He stared at Alex for 2 full seconds. Then his hand came up. The slap landed hard. The sound of it cracked through the room and killed every conversation at once. Alex's head snapped sideways, his lip already reddening. "Dad!" Isabella screamed. Margaret was just as stunned. "William, have you lost your mind? It's your birthday and you're hitting the boy?" William pointed at the head seat, his voice low but every word landing clean. "This is my birthday banquet. It is not a stage for you to do as you please. Alex, that seat was never yours to take." Alex pressed a hand to his cheek, eyes going red. "General, I just what?" William cut in. "Just using my birthday to make yourself look good. Just stepping on my son-in-law's face so everyone here starts thinking you're half a son of this family." That landed. I saw the comrades' eyes start moving. Some to me, some to Isabella, a few muttering to each other, trying to work out what he meant. Isabella went pale. "Dad, don't be so harsh. Alex and I have been comrades for years. He's not as calculating as you're making him sound." William turned to her. "And your husband?" She froze. "He paid for tonight," William said. "He came early and set everything up himself. He checked the seating table by table. He went through the guest list name by name. And you let another man sit in the seat of honor while your husband carried bowls to the kitchen. Isabella, tell me, who is your husband?" The room went quiet enough that all you could hear was the air conditioner humming. If you're enjoying our stories, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us create more amazing content for you. We're on a mission to reach our first 1,000 subscribers, and every single subscription brings us one step closer. Thank you for being part of our journey. I was still standing by the door with the bowl in my hands, and it struck me as almost funny that this was being said on my behalf not by my wife, but by her father. Isabella's eyes welled up. She looked at me like I was the one who'd failed to save her from this. "Kane, say something." "Say what?" I said. She bit her lip. "You know how Dad gets. Can't you just smooth this over? There are so many comrades here tonight. Alex just got hit in front of all of them. How's he supposed to face anyone after this?" I almost laughed. She was worried about how Alex would hold his head up around people. It hadn't once occurred to her to ask how I was supposed to hold mine up after being sent off to the kitchen in front of the same crowd. I set the bowl down on the table. Then I pulled a folded bill out of my pocket and laid it in the center. Deposit was $6,800. Balance is $11,300. Drinks will run about $4,200. I'll cover all of it tonight. I took out the car keys next and set them beside the bill. I put the down payment on this car before we married, and I've been paying the loan since. Alex has been driving it for 3 months. As of tonight, I'm taking it back. Then I looked at Isabella. "Once the banquet's over, we're talking about a divorce." The room exploded. Margaret shrieked, "Kane, what is that supposed to mean? It's your father-in-law's birthday and you're threatening divorce?" Isabella stared at me like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You want a divorce over a seat?" "It's not about the seat," I said, calm as I could manage. "It's that I finally understand I don't have a seat in this family at all." I turned and walked out. As I passed Alex, he leaned in just close enough for only me to hear. "Kane, who exactly are you trying to fool with this whole righteous act? Isabella's not divorcing you. She can't live without me, and she's not about to give up your money either. You'll sulk for a day or two and crawl back to clean up whatever mess you make." I stopped walking. My phone had been recording for 17 minutes. I didn't turn around. "We'll see who's laughing last," was all I said. I didn't leave the hall right away. I stepped out into the corridor by the kitchen, where a serving cart sat half-loaded and waiters moved back and forth with trays, nobody paying me any attention. I leaned against the wall and played back the recording. Alex's voice came through clean. "Isabella's not divorcing you. She can't leave me, and she can't bear to give up your money." 2 short sentences, but sharp enough to do the job. I saved a backup of the recording to the cloud and snapped a photo of the bill I'd left on the head table. Only after I'd done both did I notice my hands weren't shaking at all. 5 years earlier, the first time I'd argued with Isabella over Alex, My hands had shaken so badly I couldn't hold a cup steady. That was our first wedding anniversary. I'd booked a restaurant weeks in advance. And then at the last minute she told me Alex had just gone through a bad breakup and was down by the base seaside alone, letting the wind hit him. She said she was worried and had to go check on him. I reminded her it was our anniversary. She told me anniversaries come around every year. A person only gets one shot at truly losing hope. I followed her down to the seaside and found Alex with his head resting on her shoulder, his eyes red. When she looked up and saw me, she didn't explain herself. She accused me instead. "Kane, are you following me?" After that, it just kept happening. Alex had a stomachache, and she drove my car to the hospital with him in the middle of the night. Alex's business fell apart, and she quietly moved money out of our joint account to bail him out. Alex said his dorm wasn't safe, and she let him park his belongings in our storage room, the room in our wedding home. Every time I said something, she told me I was overreacting. "Why are you, a grown man, so hung up on a fellow soldier? He's got no one else. If I don't help him, who will? Don't worry, I know where the line is." I'd assumed her line, at minimum, meant not letting him take the head seat at her own father's birthday banquet. Turns out I'd given her too much credit. Footsteps came down the hallway behind me. Isabella caught up, her face a mix of anger and something like grievance. "Kane, haven't you caused enough trouble already?" I looked up. "I caused trouble?" She lowered her voice. "Do you know how humiliated Alex was just now? Getting slapped like that? He came in good faith to celebrate my dad's birthday and ended up a laughingstock in front of everyone. You don't have to like him, but you don't kick a man while he's down." I looked at her and asked, "What about me?" She blinked. "What do you mean, what about you? When I was sent to the kitchen, did it occur to you that I might have been humiliated too?" She frowned. "Sent to the kitchen? You said you wanted to go. You're the one who told me not to make a scene. You're the one who shouldn't have caused a scene to begin with." She couldn't hold it in anymore, her voice rising. "It was just a seat. You had to turn it into this whole thing. It's my dad's birthday, not a place for you to go around defending your pride." I smiled. "So my dignity doesn't count." Her mouth tightened, then her tone softened a little. "That's not what I meant, Kane. We've been married 5 years, you know how I am. I just don't like putting the comrades in an awkward spot. Alex hasn't had it easy either. Why do you have to push him? Did I push him into taking the seat of honor?" She went quiet, choking up, but I kept going. "Did I push him to drive my car? To spend our money? To move his things into our house? Did I push him into saying you can't leave him and you can't give up my money?" Her face changed. "What are you talking about?" I held my phone up so she could see the screen. The recording paused with 10 seconds left on it. I pressed play. Alex's voice came through clean in the empty hallway. "She can't leave me, and she can't give up his money." Isabella's expression fell apart piece by piece. She reached for the phone on instinct. "He's just talking nonsense. Don't take it out of context." I stepped back before she could grab it. Out of context? Should I send the whole 17 minutes to the family group chat and let everyone hear it for themselves? Panic flashed across her face, then hardened into anger. "Kane, when did you turn into someone like this? Recording your own wife?" "Since the day I noticed $180,000 missing from our joint account." She went completely still. I kept my eyes on her. 3 days before the banquet, the card ending in 7261 sent $180,000 to Alex. The note said consulting fee. "Isabella, what kind of consulting fee runs $180,000? Her lips parted, but nothing came out. His studio was having cash flow problems. I was just lending him money from our joint account. That account has my money in it too, you know. I just stared at her. "It also covers this month's mortgage, my mother's post-surgery checkups, the final payment on your father's own birthday banquet. And you took that money and handed it to a man who sat in your father's seat of honor, drove my car, and humiliated me in front of a room full of people. And your defense is that some of it was your money too?" Her face went pale. Her voice dropped. "I'll make him pay it back." "Fine," I said. She must have thought I was softening, because she opened her mouth to say something else, but I was already dialing the bank's customer service line, right in front of her. "Hi, I'd like to suspend online payment access on the account ending in 7261, and I need the transaction history for the past 2 years." Her head snapped up. "Kane." I didn't look at her. "Also, I need to report the supplementary card ending in 0927 as lost, and freeze the credit line on it." She lunged and grabbed my arm. "Are you out of your mind? That's my card." The rep on the line was still verifying my identity. I gave them what they needed, calm the whole time, and hung up. Isabella's eyes had gone red. Not from hurt, from fury. "This is financial control, Kane. I never thought you'd sink this low. Spending your husband's money to keep another man afloat," I said. "That's the low part." She raised her hand to slap me. Someone caught her wrist before it landed. William was standing at the corner of the hallway, his expression darker than it had been in the private room. "Isabella." His voice was flat, cold. "Haven't you humiliated yourself enough for one night?" She grabbed onto him like he was the only solid thing left in the hallway. "Dad, did you hear him? He froze my card. He wants a divorce, and now he's going through the bank records too." William looked at her, and all I saw in his face was disappointment. "He should." Margaret came rushing over and, catching the tail end of it, panicked. "William, what are you saying? It's their money as a couple. What's wrong with Isabella helping out a comrade a little?" He turned on her. "$180,000 is a little?" Margaret faltered, then found her footing again for another round. "She was just being kind. Alex will pay it back, obviously. Is Kane really going to make this much noise over something so small?" I stopped listening at that point. There wasn't anything left to hear. I grabbed my coat and walked past all of them toward the elevator. Isabella called after me. "Kane, if you walk out tonight, don't bother coming back." The doors opened. I stepped in and looked at her. Fine by me. I wasn't planning on going back to a home where anyone can just walk in anyway. Right before the doors shut, I saw real panic cross her face for the first time all night. Too late. The elevator hit the ground floor and my phone buzzed. A temporary bank statement had come through. Over the last 2 years, Isabella hadn't sent Alex $180,000. She'd sent him $736,400. I sat in my car outside the hotel and stared at that number. I didn't feel angry, just a strange, cold clarity. $736,400. And that wasn't even counting the cash withdrawals, the spending on the supplementary card, or the gas, tolls, and maintenance she'd put on my vehicle. I forwarded the statement to James Carter, a lawyer friend I'd known for 10 years. He'd reviewed my first work contract back when I was barely getting by, before he moved into family and civil law. He always said the hardest thing to settle in this line of work was never the money, it was the human heart. He wrote back fast. "Keep the original records, not just screenshots. Come by the office tomorrow. Bring the premarital property deed, the car purchase contract, the joint account statements, and the transfer logs." I replied, "Divorce. I want the money back." He answered with 4 words, "Don't go soft." I sat with those 4 words for a long moment. Then I started the car and drove home. The apartment was in the old Northern District, 3 bedrooms, bought before I ever met Isabella, back when property here was still affordable. I put 8 years of savings into it and designed the renovation myself, piece by piece. The first time Isabella saw the place, she stood by the floor-to-ceiling window and said, "Kane, this is going to be our home." I believed her. So when she told me, after we married, that she wanted to turn the storage room into a piano room, I said yes. When she said her mother's back was bad and the guest room needed a new mattress, I bought one. When she said Alex's things had nowhere to go and asked if he could use a corner of the storage room, something in me didn't like it, but I agreed anyway. That corner never stayed a corner. 2 cardboard boxes became a row of storage cabinets, and the cabinets became a workspace Alex could use whenever he wanted. When I got home that night, the door lock was still open on the code, the lights were on inside, and there was a pair of men's boots by the entrance that weren't mine. I stood there for a few seconds. I didn't need to go looking for answers I already had. The living room was empty, but I could hear voices from the balcony. Alex was out there, leaning on the railing on the phone, the mark from William's slap still visible on his face. "Don't worry, Isabella's got it handled. Kane's tough on the outside, soft underneath. Scare him a little and he'll cave." Whatever the other person said made him laugh. They've lived in that place together for 5 years. You think that just changes overnight? Besides, if Isabella actually goes through with the divorce, doesn't he owe her half of it anyway? "Who told you that?" I said, from behind him. He spun around fast enough to nearly drop the phone. For a second his face slipped, then settled right back into calm. "You're back. Good timing, actually. I've still got a few things to grab." I looked toward the storage room. The door was half open. It wasn't just boxes in there anymore. There was a folding bed, a toiletry bag, a couple of jackets, even a pair of slippers. "You've been staying here," I said. He shrugged. "Sometimes, when I work late, Isabella lets me crash. We're all friends here. You're not going to make this into something, are you?" "I am upset." He laughed. "Then take it up with Isabella. Why come at me?" I took out my phone and photographed the storage room. His face darkened. "Kane, don't push it. Photographing my private things, that's not legal. This is my house too." "No," I said, slow and deliberate. "Down payment before marriage. Mortgage started before marriage. I'll settle whatever's owed for the post-marriage payments, according to the law, but right now, I'm the sole owner of this property. You've been living here without my consent, and I'm entitled to ask you to leave immediately." The comm cracked. "Who are you trying to scare? Isabella won't agree to this." "Whether she agrees or not doesn't change whether I change the locks." I called property management and asked them to send a locksmith. Alex lunged for my phone. I stepped aside and he lost his footing, going down hard against the coffee table. His face turned even uglier after that. 10 minutes later, Isabella burst in. The second she saw the two of us squared off, she stepped in front of him. "Kane, how much longer are you going to keep this up? My dad hit him tonight. I just let him come here to cool off. What's the problem?" "Is this our home?" I said. "Or yours?" She frowned. "Don't talk like that. Just answer me." "Of course it's our home." "Then why didn't I know he had slippers, a toiletry bag, and a folding bed here?" Her eyes slid away from mine. "He works late sometimes. Late enough to sleep over in someone else's wedding home? Kane, can you not make everything sound dirty?" Alex knows where the line is. I pulled up the property's surveillance log on my phone. The 3rd of last month. 11:40 p.m. He comes in. Leaves at 7:20 the next morning. "You were away at training that week." Her face went white. Alex jumped in. "I came by that day to grab some paperwork. I was tired. I just dozed off on the couch for a bit." I kept scrolling. The 15th. 1:10 a.m. He comes in. Doesn't leave until 9:30 the next morning. "You told me you were at the hospital that night with your mother." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I looked at her. "Did you know? Or didn't you?" She looked away instead of answering. That was answer enough. The locksmith showed up. Isabella stood in the doorway, blocking him, her voice shaking. "Kane, you can't do this. This is my home too. You can stay until the divorce is final. I'm not going to have you kicked out illegally." I glanced at Alex. "He can't." Alex sneered. "You think changing the locks means you've won? What about the car? My stuff's still in it." I pulled the spare key out of my pocket. "Since you brought it up, I checked the GPS. It's parked outside a bar on the west side of town." I looked at him. "I'm the buyer on that car, the loan holder, and the one paying the insurance. As of today, you have no right to use it. I've already called the towing company. Keep driving it and I'll report it as unauthorized use." Isabella finally cracked. "I need that car too. How am I supposed to get to work if you take it back? Subway, bus, taxi." I kept my voice flat. "Or have Alex buy you one." She looked at me like I'd said something insane. "You're my husband." "Not for much longer." The room went quiet. Alex looked between the two of us and laughed. "Isabella, You seeing this? This is the man you married, threatening you with the house, the car, trying to control you into backing down. Her eyes went red. There was a time that look would have gotten to me. Not tonight. I just picked the car keys up off the table. Alex, get your things out within 3 days, or I'll have property management and a lawyer handle the cleanup themselves. Then I went into the bedroom and started gathering documents, marriage certificate, property deed, car purchase contract, the bank's USB security key, the prenup, all of it into a folder. Isabella stood in the doorway watching me, and for the first time that night, real panic showed on her face. You're actually going through with this. I zipped the folder shut. I'm not arguing with you, Isabella. I looked at her. I'm telling you, we're done. By 7 the next morning, the Harper family group chat was on fire. Margaret went first. Kane, how heartless can you be? You made a scene in public last night at your father-in-law's own birthday party and had Isabella crying half the night. No marriage is smooth sailing. Over some misunderstanding between comrades, you freeze her card, change the locks, and start talking divorce? Do you have no conscience at all? Others piled on after her. Kane, a marriage isn't something you calculate like this. A man should be bigger than that. Isabella's lovely and devoted. You should be grateful to have her. I've met that Alex kid. He seems like a decent guy, not a troublemaker. Couples fight, sure, but don't drag money into it. It poisons everything. I sat in the conference room at James's firm, scrolling through message after message. He slid a coffee across the table. You going to respond? Yes. He raised an eyebrow. Once you put it out there, there's really no walking it back. I never planned to walk it back. I started with a photo, the payment receipt from the banquet. Deposit, $6,800. Balance, $11,300. Drinks, $4,200. All paid by me. The seating chart, the menu, the gift table, the projection video, all arranged by me in advance. The chat went silent for a solid 10 seconds. I kept going. Second image. A running total of what I'd put into the Harper family over the past 2 years. Margaret's back surgery, $3,200. Edward's shop rent, $12,000. William's monthly checkups and medication for $1,000. The renovation on the old family house, $21,000. Holiday gifts and red envelopes I hadn't even fully tallied, roughly $9,800. All told, $50,600. Third image. Isabella's transfer history to Alex. $736,400. I didn't add any commentary, just one line. Would the family like to weigh in on who's actually been scheming against whom? Dead silence. The aunt who'd just been lecturing me about being magnanimous was the first to flip. Isabella sent him that much money? And uncle sent nothing but a question mark. Over $700,000 between comrades? Margaret jumped back in fast. This is a private matter between a young couple. Why are you airing it out in the group chat? Kane, do you have no manners at all? I kept my hands steady and typed back. Last night was also a family matter. You all felt free to judge me in this chat. Why can't I defend myself in the same place? Margaret snapped back furious. What's wrong with a son-in-law spending a little money on his wife's family? Isabella married you. She gave you 5 years of her youth. Before I could type anything back, William's message came through. Margaret, enough. The chat went quiet again. William almost never spoke up in that group, let alone in that tone. Half a minute later, he sent one more message. Kane, I've never shorted the Harper family in all my years, and I won't pretend I have now. What happened last night was on Isabella and on this family. If anyone tries to pull rank on him again, they come to me first. I sat with that message for a while, not sure how to feel. My father-in-law wasn't a bad man. But when only one person in a family can see clearly, that's rarely enough to save it. Isabella called almost immediately. I picked up and put her on speaker. Kane, why would you post our bank statements in the group? Her voice was shaking. Do you have any idea how the comrades already see me after you let Alex take that seat? Did you even think about how that made me look? A short pause. This is different. How is it different? Her voice dropped. I'm your wife. You can't do this to me. It's exactly because you're my wife that I put up with 5 years of this. I looked down at the documents spread across the table. And it's exactly because you're my wife that you should understand what that money means. You took money I worked hard for and handed it to a man who humiliated me, and you expect me to just swallow it gracefully. Isabella, what gives you the right? She started crying. I didn't try to comfort her. He was really struggling back then. I just wanted to help him. $730,000. He'll pay it back. When? She had no answer. Across the table, James quietly slid a form toward me. A checklist of what to gather. The original bank statements, the chat logs, the recordings, the vehicle usage records, the property documents, a full accounting of our joint debts. Looking at that list, it struck me how absurd it was. 5 years of marriage reduced to a folder of evidence waiting for a court date. Isabella was still on the line. Kane, can you please stop this? I know I handled last night badly. I'll have Alex apologize to you personally. Just restore the card, don't change the house password, and let's go home and talk it through properly. Has he moved his things out yet? A pause. I already knew the answer before she gave it. He got hurt last night. I couldn't just leave him like that. I hung up. James laughed under his breath. Pretty typical, that. Typical of what? It's not that she doesn't know you've been wronged. She just figures your pain can wait its turn. That line went straight through me. It didn't hurt much, I think I'd gone numb to it by then. That afternoon, the towing company called. They'd found the car, not outside the bar, but impounded by traffic police under an overpass on the west side of town. Alex had driven it drunk, hit a guardrail, and had no paperwork to show he was authorized to be behind the wheel. When I got to the station, Isabella was already there. She rushed over. Kane, just tell them you agreed to lend Alex the car. I stopped where I was. Alex sat in a chair, pale but still trying to look composed. Kane, I was in a bad place last night, had a few drinks. I'll cover the repairs, just help me get out of this. I looked at him. When exactly did I agree to let you drive it? His face stiffened. Isabella got anxious. Don't be stubborn right now, of all times. I pulled out the purchase contract and the spare key and turned to the officer. This vehicle is registered to me. I never authorized its use. He's been using it for an extended period without my consent, and I'm already working with a lawyer on this. Isabella stared at me like she couldn't believe it. Alex finally panicked. Kane, are you trying to ruin me? I looked down at him. When you were sitting in that driver's seat, weren't you already acting like a member of this family? I turned away, signed what needed signing, and arranged to get the car back. Behind me, Isabella's voice broke. Kane, how did you turn into this person? I didn't turn around. I hadn't turned into anyone new. I just finally stopped pretending not to see. 3 days after the banquet, my father-in-law ended up in the hospital. His blood pressure had never been stable to begin with. That night, still furious, he'd gone home only to have Margaret and Isabella argue with him until he couldn't take it anymore. By morning he was dizzy and they'd sent him to the hospital. The news came from William himself. No need to come, Kane. It's nothing serious. Just handle your own things. I read the message and went anyway. Not for Isabella. Not for her family. That slap he'd given Alex had said out loud everything I'd swallowed for 5 years. I couldn't let a divorce cost me my basic decency too. I picked up some fruit and a braised duck on the way. Outside the hospital room, I heard Margaret's voice, sharp through the door. Are you happy now? The birthday banquet turned into a joke. Your son-in-law's talking divorce, and every comrade you know is watching this family fall apart. That slap of yours, you think it landed on Alex? It landed on Isabella's face. William's voice came back, tired. He handed his own face over to be hit. And how exactly did Alex embarrass Isabella? That boy's been decent to her all these years. Now Kane's shown who he really is. Cutting off cards, taking the car back, locking them out of the house, and you're still standing up for him? That house was always Kane's to begin with. What do you mean his? They've been married 5 years. Isn't that joint property? William coughed a few times, and when he spoke again his voice had gone cold. Margaret, keep talking like this and Isabella's divorce is already finished. I knocked lightly on the door. The room went quiet. Isabella opened it, and for a second her eyes lit up before the last few days caught up with her expression again. You're here. I handed her what I'd brought. To see your father. Hearing me say it that way made her eyes redden instantly. Kane. I walked past her to the bedside. William saw me and said, "Didn't I tell you not to bother?" I set the duck down on the nightstand. It was on the way. He was quiet for a few seconds, studying me. Stubborn as ever, this one. Margaret let out a snort from the side. Good, you're here. There's a few things we need to sort out. Kane, Isabella hasn't eaten or slept properly in days. Don't push this too far. Married couples don't hold grudges overnight. Restore her card. Give her the new house password. Sort out that mess with the traffic police. And leave Alex alone. The boys already had enough bad luck. I looked at Isabella. She kept her eyes down and said nothing. Is that what you want too? I asked. Quietly, she said. Alex can't get a criminal record. He still needs to work at the base. And me? She looked up, eyes shining with tears. Kane, we're husband and wife. Why do you keep comparing yourself to him? I almost laughed. A gentle voice came from the doorway. Isabella, don't say it like that. Kane's going to get the wrong idea about me. Alex walked in holding a bouquet, a bandage still on his face, wearing a light-colored coat, looking worn down but harmless. Margaret perked up right away. Alex, you came too? Does your face still hurt? He shook his head. I'm fine, Aunt Margaret. I was just worried about the general. William's face darkened instantly. Who invited you here? Alex paused mid-step, gave a small, rueful smile. General, I know you're still angry with me. I was out of line that night. I own that. I came to apologize to you and to Kane. He turned and bowed to me, deep and deliberate. Kane, I'm sorry. I sat in the wrong seat and let you get the wrong idea about me. The whole car thing was my fault too. I never meant to take advantage of you. If my being around bothers you, I'll disappear from your life completely. Just, Isabella's soft-hearted. Please don't take it out on her because of me. It was a beautifully constructed little speech. Every line an apology, and every line quietly tying him back to Isabella. Right on cue, her eyes welled up. Alex, don't. Margaret jumped in. Kane, look how humble he's being. What more do you want from him? I took out my phone. Since we're clearing things up, let's clear everything up in front of everyone. I played the recording. Alex's own voice filled the hospital room. Isabella's not divorcing you. She can't leave me. She can't give up your money either. You'll sulk for a day or two, then crawl back and clean it all up yourself. The color drained straight out of his face. Margaret went silent too. Isabella stared at the phone like she was hearing those words, really hearing them, for the first time. I stopped the recording and looked at him. You just said I misunderstood you. Was that a misunderstanding too? His lips trembled. I'd just been hit. I was upset. I wasn't thinking straight. I said it out of anger. Was taking my car out of anger too? Sleeping in my wedding home out of anger? Isabella sending you $730,000. Out of anger as well? Every question I asked seemed to drop the temperature in the room a little further. Finally, the act cracked and his voice hardened. Kane, does it have to go this far? Isabella helped me because she wanted to. Doesn't she have a say in what happens with your joint assets? She does, I said. Which is why I'm only recovering what the law allows me to recover. His face changed color. From the bed, William suddenly spoke up. What about the money for the banquet? Everyone turned to look at him. He pulled a folded piece of paper out from under his pillow and held it out to me. Take a look, Kane. I unfolded it. It was a copy of an IOU. Borrower, Alex. Amount, $26,000. Purpose, expenses for William's birthday banquet and related social obligations. In the guarantor's line, Isabella's signature, clear as anything. Isabella went white. Margaret looked stunned. What is this? William's eyes stayed on Alex. I paid for my own birthday banquet, Kane paid for it. So what were you doing borrowing $26,000 from my old comrades in the name of my birthday? Where did that money go? Alex started backpedaling fast. General, there's been a misunderstanding. William pulled the monitor clip off his finger and pushed himself upright, his eyes red. A misunderstanding? I'm 61 years old, and you used my own birthday to run a con. You stepped on my son-in-law to do it. You lied to my daughter. You borrowed money off men who've known me 30 years. Tell me, Alex, which part of that is a misunderstanding? By now, a small crowd had gathered outside the ward. Relatives, a nurse or two, family from the next bed over. Whatever was left of Alex's composure came apart completely. Isabella swayed on her feet like she might go down. She looked at me, grasping for anything to hold on to. Kane, I didn't know about the IOU. I swear I didn't know. I slid the copy into my folder. Whether you knew or not, that's for the police and the courts to figure out. I turned and walked out. She caught up to me in the hallway and grabbed my arm. Kane, please, don't call the police. If this actually goes through, it'll ruin his life. I looked down at her hand around my wrist. 5 years married, and this was the first time she'd ever begged me for anything. Still for him. I pulled my arm back, slowly. And what about my 5 years? She froze. Isabella, someone's going to answer for the dignity you spent these 5 years tearing down. Who's paying for that? William didn't go to the police right away, not out of mercy, but because he wanted the full picture first. He was careful like that. We can't just look at the $26,000, he told me. We need to know everything Alex borrowed, whose names he used, and whether Isabella had any part in it. I respected that he needed time, but my side of the accounting didn't wait for anyone. James drafted the first formal letter. It laid out 4 things plainly. Isabella was to stop using the joint account without authorization. Alex was to reimburse the repair costs, fines, and towing fees from the car he'd been driving. Alex had 3 days to clear every last item out of my premarital property. And Isabella was required to cooperate with an audit of every irregular transfer made during our marriage. The day that letter reached the Harper family, Margaret showed up at the apartment with Isabella and her younger brother Edward in tow, ready for a fight. I was in the middle of clearing out the storage room. Alex had left behind more than I'd realized: clothes, papers, a folding bed, receipts, an account ledger, even some kind of partnership agreement for a consulting course. I just finished photographing everything and sealing it into boxes when someone started pounding on the door. Kane, open up. Margaret's voice. I opened the door. She pushed past me into the apartment, looking around like she still owned the place. What is this? You actually changed the password? Are you trying to throw Isabella out on the street? Isabella stood behind her, worn thin and pale. Edward hovered near the back, already looking impatient. Come on, that's enough, isn't it? A married couple fighting so hard they're sending lawyer letters. How embarrassing is that? Edward said. I didn't let any of them pass the entryway. Say what you came to say. Margaret erupted. This is Isabella's home. What's with that attitude? I looked at Isabella. Is that what you think too? She bit her lip. Kane, we've been married 5 years. This has always been the place we live together. Living together isn't the same as owning it together. I turned and pulled copies of the deed, the purchase contract, and the pre-marriage loan records out of my folder. This apartment was bought before we married. I paid the down payment myself and the titles in my name alone. Whatever mortgage was paid jointly during the marriage, I'll compensate her fairly for it, by law, but this house doesn't belong to the Harper family. Margaret grabbed the copies and threw them on the floor without even glancing at them. Don't hide behind legal talk with me. She's been your wife for 5 years. She's cooked for you, cleaned for you. Half this house should be hers. I looked at Isabella. She looked embarrassed, but she didn't say anything to stop it. Cooked and cleaned, I said. For 5 years I paid for a housekeeper, and I did most of the cooking myself. Isabella was always busy with work. I never once made an issue of it. And now that we're dividing things up, suddenly it's her leverage. Edward smirked. Come on, brother-in-law, drop the act. You're just scared of losing the house. If you really loved my sister, you'd leave her something even after the divorce. A man should have more class than that. I looked at him. Next month's rent on your shop. You're covering that yourself. His smile disappeared. What do you mean? Exactly what I said. As of today, I'm not paying your rent, your utilities, your inventory, and I'm not co-signing any more loans for you. His face changed instantly. Then what happens to the shop? The lease is paid every 6 months. Your shop. Your problem. He got anxious. You said you'd help me back then. I helped my wife's brother, I said. Not someone who takes my money and calls me ungrateful for wanting it back. Margaret shoved forward, jabbing a finger toward my face. Kane, are you trying to destroy this whole family? I took out my phone, calm. Should I call the police for you instead? You've trespassed, damaged documents, made threats, and I've got it all recorded. Her hand froze mid-air. Isabella finally spoke. Mom, enough. She turned to me, her voice hoarse. Kane, do you really have to be this calculated about everything? We were together 5 years. Is that really all money to you now? I almost laughed. Isabella, you're the one who turned this into money first. Her face went pale. When you sent Alex that first $5,000, did you think about us then? When you let him sleep here, did you think about us? When you handed him the seat of honor and sent me to the kitchen, did you think about us then? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. That's when Edward, without thinking, blurted, Sis, didn't you say the training center money could tide Alex over for a bit, and brother-in-law would never notice? Now that he's gone through everything, aren't you going to just talk to him straight? The room went dead silent. Isabella spun on him. Shut up. I looked at her. The training institution money. She went pale. That was 6 months ago. I remembered it clearly. She'd wanted to start a children's art center with a friend and was $30,000 short. I hadn't even hesitated. Consider it my investment in you, I told her. And she'd hugged me and said, Kane, you're so good to me. Once this is stable, I'm going to make your life easier. That money had ended up with Alex too. I looked down and laughed, quietly. She panicked. It's not what you're thinking. The center did use most of it. Alex just had an emergency, so I moved a little over to help. How much? Silence. Edward, realizing he'd started this, quietly stepped back behind his mother. I started recording. How much did you move? Tears started falling. $22,000. Good, I said, and saved that admission right alongside the last one. Margaret finally panicked. Kane, we're family. There's no reason to make this so ugly. I looked at her. It was already ugly the moment you let Alex take the seat of honor. That day, right in front of all of them, I boxed up every last thing of Alex's, labeled the boxes, and had property management move them into the temporary storage room by the building entrance. Isabella stood there crying the whole time. Maybe she thought I'd feel bad for her. All I felt was that the apartment had finally gotten a little cleaner. Edward's shop didn't even last 2 weeks. He'd opened a trendy toy collectible store on the 3rd floor of the mall. High rent, foot traffic that looked good on paper and nowhere else. When he was pitching it, all he kept saying was, young people are upgrading how they spend. This is going to blow up. In reality, I'd covered every bit of it, the renovation, the shelving, the initial stock, the mall deposit. I never expected him to pay any of it back. I just figured Isabella only had the one brother, and if I could help, I would. Looking back now, I don't think most people drain you because they're desperate. I think it's that the moment you bend over for them once, they start assuming your back was built for them to stand on. Edward called me for the first time the day before rent was due. Brother-in-law, I'm a little short right now. Can you send me $8,000? I'll pay you back next month, I swear. I was in the middle of measuring a room at the studio when I picked up. All I said was, don't call me brother-in-law. He went quiet, then got angry fast. Are you really going to be this cold? My sister hasn't even divorced you yet. Then I'm just not lending you any more money. I'm not suing you either. His voice cracked. But you signed the lease with me. The mall manager knows your name too. If you back out now, what does that make me look like? What people think of you, I said, is your problem. And I hung up. That afternoon, Isabella showed up at the studio. White dress, hair down, looking more worn down than she had a few days earlier. In the past, when she came by my studio, it was to have me pick her up, fix something, or handle some problem for her family. This time, she was holding my favorite coffee. Kane, let's talk. I didn't take the coffee. I just led her to the conference table. Divorce, fine, she said, her eyes dimming. Do you have to be this sharp with me now, on top of everything? I didn't answer. She set the coffee down, her voice softening. Edward's shop is about to fall apart. You know how he is, if it actually closes, he won't handle it well. So, I said. She bit her lip. Help him one more time. Once we sort everything else out, I'll make sure he pays you back. I laughed. She looked stung by it. I know you don't believe me right now, but he's still my brother. He's your brother, I said. Not my son. Her face went pale. I kept going. I checked the accounts. Out of the $43,000 you told me was for the training institution, $22,000 went to Alex. The other $8,000 went straight into Edward's store account. So really, you used my own money to talk me into supporting your career, and split it in half between the two of them. Tears welled up fast. I'm not lying to you. I just figured you wouldn't mind. Of course I wouldn't mind, I said. As long as you told me the truth. She choked up. I slid a printed bank statement across to her. Isabella, you're not soft-hearted. You're just used to things. Used to my money always being there when you need it. Used to me always covering for you no matter what you ask. Alex only had the nerve to walk all over me because you let him know my money was there for the taking. My car was his to drive. My home was his to walk into. And I was someone your whole family could look down on without consequence. She shook her head. No, that's not it. I cut her off. You didn't come here today because you realized you hurt me. You came because you realized you're out of money. The room went dead quiet. Her face drained of all its color. She stood up, voice shaking. Kane, 5 years. Is that really how you see me? And you, I said. 5 years. How did you see me? She had no answer, so I gave her one. An ATM, a driver, a repairman, a safety net for your family's debts, and the husband who'd never actually leave, no matter how many times you chose him over me. She cried out. I didn't. I pulled up my phone. A screenshot of an old chat between her and Alex, pulled from an old sync on my tablet. Alex. Will Kane be upset? Isabella. He'll grumble for a bit, then he'll be fine. He's soft-hearted. He won't actually leave me. Another one. Alex. I'll take the car for a few days so clients don't look down on me. Isabella, go ahead. He won't need it for a while anyway. Even if he finds out, I'll talk him down. She stared at the screen. Her tears just stopped. She knew there was nothing left to explain her way out of. When she finally spoke, her voice had gone very small. I just said that without thinking. So am I said. She looked up at me. Get out. She went white, shaking. It was the first time I'd ever spoken to her like that. I expected to feel bad about it. What I felt instead was relief. After she left, James had his assistant send a second letter, this one to Edward, demanding he clarify within 15 days the nature of every dollar I'd advanced him over 3 years for rent, renovations, and inventory. If it had been loans, we'd begin recovery. If he claimed it was all gifted, he'd need signed proof from both of us. Edward's response was to blow up the family group chat. Kane, are you even a man? My sister married you for 5 years, and now you're trying to bury her brother? I didn't reply. One of the uncles beat me to it. Borrowing money means paying it back. That's just how it works. Your brother-in-law helped you as a favor. He's not obligated to keep doing it forever. Edward went quiet after that. The whole family's attitude had shifted. They'd assumed my silence all these years meant I owed the Harpers something. Now that the numbers were sitting in front of everyone in black and white, it was clear whose debt this actually was. That evening, William called. He sounded exhausted. Kane, Alex is gone. I was standing by the window, watching the traffic below. Gone where? Turned his phone off this afternoon. His studios cleared out. A pause. A few of my old comrades came to see me. Said the money he borrowed under my name for the banquet wasn't just $26,000. How much? He was quiet for a long moment. $113,000. I closed my eyes. His voice came out rough. I'm reporting it tomorrow. As for Isabella, handle that however you need to. Don't worry about me. Okay, I said. After we hung up, a text came in from an unknown number. Kane, you really think you've won? Don't forget. Isabella signed her name to this too. If it all comes out, he's not going down alone. No name attached, but I knew exactly who it was. I screenshotted it and sent it to James, then replied with 4 words. That's what I'm counting on. The day William went to file the report, the sky had gone overcast. He walked into the station with a cane, back still straight. Margaret trailed beside him, eyes swollen from crying, muttering the whole way. William, do you really have to make such a thing of this? Whatever Alex did, he's still Isabella's comrade. What if it drags her into it too? He stopped and looked at her. Then let her carry what's hers to carry. He's your daughter, William. It's because she's my daughter that I won't let her spend the rest of her life confused about right and wrong. I stood at the entrance and heard the whole exchange. It made me respect him more than I had in 5 years of marriage into his family. Not every parent can stop themselves from shielding their child once they've done wrong. Most people would just say, we're family, let it go. Isabella arrived not long after, hair a little messy, face pale. She was out of the car before it had even fully stopped, rushing toward her father. Dad, you can't report this. Why not? Alex already reached out to me. He said he'll pay it all back, he just needs time. Where is he? She said nothing. William's voice went sharp. He won't even show his face to hand back what he owes, and you're still taking his word for it? Her eyes went red. Dad, if he actually gets arrested, his whole life is over. I stood off to the side and said nothing. I'd heard that line too many times by now. So clearly had William. He asked her slowly, and what about Kane? Isabella looked caught off guard. You took money from your husband and gave it to Alex. You gave him your husband's car. You let him live in your husband's house. At the birthday banquet, he sat in the seat of honor while Kane carried bowls to the kitchen. You're worried about Alex's life being ruined. Have you ever once worried about what Kane's been living through these 5 years? She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Kane, I know I was wrong. Can we not go to the police first? I'll pay it all back. I'll pay it back slowly. How? I said. She opened her mouth and had nothing. The training center's money was gone. Edward's shop was on the verge of closing. Margaret had no income of her own, and William's pension wasn't much either. Her own salary alone wouldn't even cover the mortgage and living expenses. She'd never had to think about any of this before, because I'd always been the one absorbing it. Now that I was gone, everything she'd been leaning on had finally given out beneath her. An officer stepped out of the station. Mr. Harper, do you have all the documentation ready? I do, William said. I handed over the dossier I'd prepared, transfer records, audio recordings, vehicle usage logs, and the threatening texts Alex had sent me. Isabella turned to me sharply. Threatening texts. I showed her. Her face went completely white as she read. Alex's last line, he's not going down alone, hit her like a physical blow. How could he say that? She murmured. He's always been this way, I said. It's just that the knife used to be pointed at me, and you looked the other way. She shook her head, voice breaking. No. I really thought he was just struggling, that he just needed help. I stopped listening after that. The statement-taking ran over 2 hours. Alex's method wasn't complicated. He'd used William's birthday banquet as cover, claiming the Harper family needed to manage gift money, cover social obligations, and fund some elder care rehabilitation project. He'd borrowed from several of William's old comrades. Since he was a regular presence at the Harper house and had Isabella as a guarantor, most of them never questioned it twice. Some of the money had actually passed through her account, which was exactly the leverage he'd used against her later. She cried through most of her statement, barely able to get words out, insisting over and over that she hadn't known he was running a scam. When the officer asked why, if it was just ordinary cash flow, she'd repeatedly used the joint marital account instead of her own money. She had no answer for that either. By the time I walked out of the station, it had started raining. Isabella caught up with me, her voice hoarse. "Kane, I really never meant to hurt you." I stood there holding my umbrella, watching the rain hit the steps. "But you did." Tears mixed with the rain on her face. "I know it's too late to say anything now, but we've been married 5 years. Can't you give me one more chance? I won't see Alex again. I'll find some way to pay you back. Please don't divorce me." That was the first time she'd said, plainly, "I won't see Alex again." Not when I'd found him sitting in the seat of honor. Not when I'd found him sleeping in our home. Not even when I'd found the $730,000. Only now, after he'd dragged her down with him too. "If he hadn't turned on you," I asked, "would you have stopped seeing him?" She froze. She didn't need to answer. The silence answered for her. I tilted the umbrella toward her, sheltering her from the rain one last time. "Isabella, I used to think you were just soft-hearted." She looked up at me. "Now I understand. You're not soft-hearted. You just never once saw me as someone who needed protecting either." I pulled the umbrella back, turned, and walked into the rain. Behind me, I could hear her crying. I didn't look back. The day we went to file for divorce, the weather was beautiful. Isabella showed up 20 minutes late, not alone. She'd brought a young lawyer and Margaret. The moment I saw Margaret, I knew the day wasn't going to go smoothly. She glared at me the second she arrived. "Kane, you're so heartless. Look how thin Isabella's gotten. Don't you feel anything at all?" I ignored her and looked at Isabella instead. "Did you bring the documents?" Her eyes were dull. "Yes." Margaret grabbed her arm immediately. "Isabella, don't be scared. He doesn't get to just divorce you however he pleases today. The house, the car, the savings. We're fighting for every last thing that's rightfully hers." I glanced past her at the young lawyer, who looked a little uncomfortable and nodded at me. "Mr. Kane, we'd like to negotiate the division of assets first." James stepped up beside me, smiling faintly. "Fine by us." Margaret's expression shifted the moment she registered who he was. "You brought your own lawyer? Guarding against what exactly?" "Against anyone trying to pass off premarital property as joint assets," James answered before I could. Her face flushed red, and she went quiet. We didn't head straight to file. Instead, we sat down in the mediation room next door. The other lawyer opened. "Ms. Harper acknowledges the marital home was registered under Mr. Kane's name before marriage. However, the couple lived there together for 5 years, and part of the mortgage was paid jointly during that time. She's seeking fair compensation." "Reasonable," James said. "We'll calculate her share of the jointly repaid mortgage and any corresponding appreciation, in accordance with the law." Margaret had just started to relax when James pulled out a second document. At the same time, during the marriage, Ms. Harper transferred a total of $736,400 to a third party, Alex, without Mr. Kane's knowledge or consent. Part of that came directly from the joint account. Part came from funds Mr. Kane had specifically designated for other purposes. We're requesting his rightful share be returned under the law, and will also be filing to recover the $22,000 diverted from the training institution's startup funds. Isabella went pale. The opposing lawyer turned to her, frowning. "You didn't disclose any of this to me before." She looked down. Margaret jumped in, flustered. "That money was lent to a comrade, it wasn't spent. What right do you have to demand it back?" James turned the page, unhurried. "A loan, was it? Then we'll need the IOU, the repayment terms, documentation of the transfer's purpose. If instead you're calling it a gift, we'll need proof of that gift from both parties. Especially given that Alex is currently the subject of a fraud investigation. The nature of these funds is very much still in question." Margaret's voice sharpened. "You're bullying us." I looked at her. "When you were the one taking the money, you never once treated me like a person." She froze. Isabella looked up at me, tears rising again. "Kane, please don't do this." Just sign it, I said. Her fingers gripped the pen so tightly they went white. She sat there for a long time without moving. Finally, quietly, and if I don't, then I'll file for divorce myself. Pain flickered across her face. Are you really that desperate to get rid of me? I didn't answer right away. Through the window, a young couple had just walked up to the counter outside, the girl clutching the little red marriage booklet, beaming. That smile caught something in my chest. 5 years ago, Isabella and I had walked out of that same building the same way. She'd hooked her arm through mine and said, "Mr. Kane, I'm looking forward to your guidance from here on out." I really believed, back then, that we'd spend a lifetime together. But a lifetime, it turns out, is long enough for someone to slowly forget who's actually standing beside them. I looked back at her. It's not that I want to get rid of you. You pushed me away a long time ago. Her tears fell. When crying got her nowhere, Margaret slammed her hand on the table. Fine, divorce then, but the house goes to Isabella. The car too. What's a woman supposed to do after a divorce with nothing? I almost laughed. Doesn't she still have Alex? Margaret's face twisted. That single line landed like a needle through whatever dignity they had left. Isabella finally broke. Can you please stop bringing him up? Why should I said. Isn't he your comrade? The one who understands you best, needs you most, the most innocent man in the room? She covered her face and sobbed. James slid the agreement across the table. Ms. Harper, I'd suggest reading this calmly. A divorce by mutual agreement lets both parties leave with some dignity intact. If this goes to litigation instead, the bank records, the recordings, the surveillance footage, all of it becomes public evidence. The opposing lawyer was quiet for a moment, then leaned toward Isabella and said, "Low enough for just her. Given what's already on the table, your odds of keeping the house or the car are slim. Pushing this further will only widen the damage." Margaret rounded on him. Whose side are you even on? He looked uncomfortable. Ms. Harper, I'm just telling you the facts. Isabella stared down at the agreement, her hands shaking badly. In the end, she didn't sign it. I need more time, she said. Fine, I said. As we walked out of the building, she caught up beside me. Kane, if it weren't for Alex, would we have ended up here? I stopped. Sunlight was pouring across the entrance, almost blinding. Yes, she froze. I looked at her and said it plainly, word by word. Because the problem was never really Alex. It was you choosing him over me again and again, sacrificing me for him again and again, asking me to understand, one more time over and over. If it hadn't been him, it would have been someone else. Her face went white. Right then my phone buzzed. A message from James. Court paperwork's ready. If she doesn't sign today, we file tomorrow. I typed back one word. Good. Once the lawsuit started, Isabella finally understood what it meant to have accounts actually settled. She'd always assumed that between a husband and wife, things were murky enough to argue your way around. In court, none of that held. Every transfer had a date attached. Every recording had a timestamp. Every trip in that car left a trail. Every message had context nobody could talk around. We're just comrades. Don't read into it stopped meaning anything. At the first hearing, Isabella showed up dressed plainly, eyes red, looking worn thin. Margaret sat in the gallery clutching a tissue, glaring at me the second she spotted me. William was there too, seated alone in the back corner, spine still straight, though his hair had gone visibly whiter. Alex didn't come. He'd already been taken into custody on a related matter and was being handled separately. Once things got underway, James laid it all out. The recording from the banquet, hotel surveillance footage, photos of Alex's belongings in the marital home, entry and exit logs for the apartment, the car's violation and accident records, screenshots of her chats with Alex, and the record of every large transfer. With each piece, Isabella's face lost a little more color. The other lawyer tried to frame it gently. Ms. Harper and Alex are longtime comrades. Nothing improper between them. The transfers, while perhaps ill-advised, came from comradely support, not any deliberate diversion of assets. James didn't blink. Whether anything improper occurred isn't really the point here. What we're arguing is that during the marriage, Ms. Harper systematically moved a significant amount of marital property to a third party outside the family, and that same third party occupied Mr. Kane's vehicle and residence long-term, resulting in real, documented losses. The judge turned to Isabella. Ms. Harper, do you dispute the transfer amounts? Her voice came out barely audible. No. The other side claims several transfers had specific designated purposes: startup capital, reserved mortgage funds, medical expenses. Do you acknowledge that? Her fingers trembled. Partially. Margaret half rose from her seat in the gallery. William pulled her back down. Then James read the chat log into the record. Alex, I'll take the car for a few days so the client doesn't look down on me. Isabella, go ahead. He won't need it for a while. Even if he finds out, I'll handle it. The courtroom went silent. Isabella kept her head down, and tears fell one after another onto the back of her own hand. I didn't watch her for long. I didn't want to remember the version of myself that had trusted her, and I was even less interested in feeling sorry for that version of me. The session broke for recess, and William took the stand as a witness. Standing there, his voice came out low but clear. Kane has been good to this family for years. He paid for my birthday banquet. He paid for the renovation on the old house. He's covered more of my hospital bills than I can count. He paused. The day Alex sat in my seat of honor, I struck him myself, because I watched, with my own eyes, that boy step on my son-in-law's face. Were you aware of the loans Alex took out? The judge asked. William closed his eyes. Not beforehand. I found out afterward. He borrowed from my own comrades in the name of my birthday, with my daughter standing as guarantor. I've already filed the report myself. Do you believe the marriage between Mr. Kane and your daughter has broken down? He was quiet for a long moment. Isabella looked up at him, one last flicker of hope in her eyes. He looked at her, and something in his face looked almost like grief. Yes, he said. It's finally broken. The color drained out of her completely. His voice went hoarse. It's my failure as her father, for not raising her better. She took her husband's efforts for granted, and mistook a stranger's flattery for something real. He paused. If Kane wants this divorce, I won't stand in his way. Behind them, Margaret was already sobbing into the gallery bench. William didn't turn around. That was the moment Isabella finally broke completely. Hands pressed to her face, shoulders shaking. I kept waiting to feel some kind of satisfaction. It didn't come. All I felt was tired, the exhausted relief of something finally being settled. For good. Before the session closed, the judge tried one last round of mediation. Isabella stood up abruptly and looked straight at me. Kane, I'll pay back every dollar. I don't want the house, I don't want the car. I'll take whatever responsibility falls on me in Alex's case. Just please don't divorce me. Every head in the room turned toward her. She was crying now openly. I know I was wrong. I was arrogant. I thought you'd never actually leave. I thought if you got angry enough, I could always coax you back. Her voice cracked. I understand now. I really do. If she'd said any of that 6 months earlier, I might have wavered. A month earlier, maybe I would have hesitated. But we were past that now. The evidence had already been laid out on the table. The wounds reopened one more time than either of us could count. And only now, at the very end, was I hearing I know I was wrong. It was too late. I stood up and looked at her. Isabella, you didn't realize you were wrong when you lost me. You realized it after you'd already lost the house, the car, the money, your dignity, and Alex. She flinched like I'd struck her. I turned to the judge. I'm proceeding with the divorce. She sank back into her chair. The ruling wasn't read out that day, but I already knew, walking out of the courthouse, roughly where it was headed. Margaret cut me off outside, none of her old arrogance left in her voice, just something close to pleading. Kane, I know I said some ugly things. Don't hold it against me. Isabella really does know she was wrong. 5 years, Kane. How do you just cut that off? I looked at this woman who'd once treated me like unpaid labor, like a wallet, like someone permanently outside the family. She was finally bowing her head to me now, not out of any respect, but because she'd finally understood I could actually walk away. William came over and pulled her back. Let him go. She was crying now too. You're just going to stand there and watch your own daughter get divorced? His eyes had gone red. What else is there to do? Let him keep burning his life away on her? I gave him a small nod and turned to leave. He called after me, Kane. I turned around. This man, who'd spent his whole life too proud to bow to anyone, bowed to me right there outside the courthouse, people walking past on either side of us. I'm sorry, he said. Something tightened in my throat. After a moment I said, Dad, you have nothing to apologize for. His eyes went red at that. It had slipped out of me so naturally that Isabella, overhearing it, cried even harder. But I already knew this was the last time I'd say it. From here on, he was just William Harper, not my father-in-law anymore. The ruling came down exactly 3 months after that first birthday banquet. The court granted the divorce. The apartment stayed with me. I compensated Isabella fairly for the jointly repaid mortgage and its appreciation, calculated by law. The car was awarded to me as well, with Alex held liable for the accident repairs and violations tied to it. Whatever portion of our marital assets Isabella had funneled to Alex during the marriage was ordered returned to me in kind. Alex's case moved forward separately, the fraud charges and loan disputes bundled together. Edward's shop shut down for good. Margaret could no longer hold her head up around the people she used to lecture. Isabella moved back into her parents' house. It all came down like a row of dominoes, one after another, until the last piece finally fell into place. William invited me to dinner afterward. Not at some hotel, just a small noodle shop on an old street. Let's keep it simple, Kane, he said. Consider it an old man's formal apology. I went. Not to patch anything up and not to give anyone an easy way out of what had happened. Just because, from the very beginning, William had never once used his position as my father-in-law to pressure me into anything. The shop was small, the menu yellowed with age, taped to the wall. He ordered 2 bowls of beef noodles and had them add a fried egg to mine. You always used to give your egg to Isabella, he said. I noticed. I smiled. Old habit. Bad one, he said. I didn't say anything to that. When the noodles arrived, he picked up his chopsticks but didn't eat right away. Kane, I've handled a lot of cases over the years, seen plenty of people make foolish choices. But when it came to my own family, I still couldn't manage it right. You did your best, I said. He shook his head. No, I didn't. I noticed something was off about Alex a long time ago. I even warned Isabella about it once. But he was in his 30s. And I kept telling myself that matters between a married couple weren't something a father should meddle in too much. So I let her keep slipping further down the wrong road. He pulled an envelope out of his bag and set it in front of me. I frowned. What's this? It's not much. $20,000. He pushed it closer. The Harper family owes you a debt I couldn't repay in a lifetime. This is what Margaret and I have managed to put aside over the years. Don't think it's too small. I pushed it back across the table. Let the ruling stand as written. I don't want your money. His eyes went red. Kane, keep it. For your retirement. I divorced Isabella, I said. Not you. He lowered his head and said nothing for a long while. The wind chime by the door rang once. I looked up, and Isabella was standing there. Thinner than I'd ever seen her, wearing a plain gray coat, no makeup, her eyes swollen red. William frowned. Why are you here? She didn't look at him. She looked at me. Dad told me where you'd be. I set my chopsticks down. She crossed the shop slowly, and when she reached the table she asked, very quietly, Kane, can I sit for a minute? William started to say something. I shook my head at him, and she sat. Her fingers kept twisting the strap of her bag. I read the ruling. I'll pay everything back on schedule. I've pulled out of the training institution too. I'll sell off whatever shares I still hold. I said. Her eyes reddened again. You won't even give me one more sentence than that. Everything that needed saying got said in court. She looked down, gave a small, sad smile, tears sliding off her chin. I went to that wonton place we used to go to yesterday. The owner asked why you hadn't been by. And it hit me. After 5 years, it feels like you're in every place I go. I didn't say anything. I used to think you were just quiet, she went on. Unromantic. Bad at saying how you felt. Alex would listen to me, tell me I was right, show up the second I felt wronged about anything. I mistook that for being understood. Her voice caught. It took me this long to realize. He only ever showed up for the feelings part. You were the one actually solving everything. The mortgage. The car loan. My mom's surgery. My dad's checkups. Edward's shop. The money for my training center. I took every bit of that for granted. She looked up at me. Kane. I really was wrong. The shop had gone completely quiet. William turned his face toward the window, eyes red and swollen. I looked at her, and I won't pretend nothing in me moved. We had genuinely spent 5 years together. Some of those nights had been warm. Some of it had been real. But a person can't undo years of steady damage with a handful of good memories. I accept your apology, I said. Something lit up in her eyes for half a second. But I don't accept getting back together. The light went out just as fast. Her lips went pale. There's really no chance? None at all? No. She sat there like the word had physically knocked something out of her. After a while, she reached into her bag and took out a small box. Our wedding rings inside. I could never bring myself to take mine off. I glanced at it. Mine had come off the night of the banquet. It had been sitting in a drawer at my studio ever since, like something whose expiration date had already passed. Keep it or throw it away, I said. It's yours to decide now. Tears kept coming. Kane, how can you be this cold? I looked at her. Isabella, when I'm cold, all I do is leave. My voice stayed quiet. When you were cold, you made me stand right there and watch you choose someone else, over and over. She trembled and finally stopped talking. I never finished the meal. William walked me to the door before I left. Live well, he said quiet. You too, I said and meant it. Outside, it had started raining again. Isabella followed me out, standing in it, her voice breaking. Kane, can we start over? I swear I won't do it again. I opened my umbrella and looked at her. 3 months earlier, outside the police station, I'd sheltered her from the rain for the last time. But even then, I'd already known we were finished. This time, I didn't offer her the umbrella. Isabella, starting over doesn't mean the old debts disappear. I turned to go. It means I don't have to start with you anymore. The day my divorce certificate came through, I didn't post anything or make a thing of it. I just packed up what was left of Isabella's belongings in the apartment and had a courier drop them off at the Harper house. Then I went back to my studio in the old part of town. A 2-story building, the ground floor a materials showroom, the second floor my office, and a place to crash when I needed it. Isabella used to complain it was too dusty, had no character, so I'd rarely brought her there. Now I found it peaceful. Plain trees outside the window, the occasional bell from an electric bike passing below, the evening light spilling gold across the wooden floor. I took the old blueprints off the wall and put up new project plans instead. Starting over turned out to be quieter than I'd imagined. Nothing dramatic. Just no longer reading Isabella's mood every morning. No more calls from Margaret out of nowhere, asking for money. No more covering Edward's shop bills. No more late-night explanations about why she'd had to go see Alex again. Turns out peace isn't about gaining more. It's about finally not being drained. Alex's case eventually wrapped up. He'd borrowed over $150,000 from various people connected to the Harper family, under a string of fabricated excuses, some of it hiding real debts he'd never disclosed. Along with the criminal charges, civil claims started piling up too. I heard that during questioning, he'd tried to shift blame onto Isabella, claiming most of the money had been given to him willingly, that he was just the borrower. She had to go back to the station several more times to give supplementary statements. The man she'd defended above everyone else had turned around and used her as cover. None of that surprised me. Human nature had already shown its hand the night he sat in that seat of honor. After Edward's shop closed, he sold off whatever stock he had left for pennies. Margaret cried to her old comrades at first, telling them how ruthless I'd been, how I'd ruined the family. But nobody sided with her anymore. Someone told her plainly, "Do you have any idea how much money that family poured into Kane over the years?" Someone else said, "Margaret, enough. You drove off a good son-in-law yourself." She's been much quieter since. William called me twice after that. Once to update me on Alex's case. Once just to ask how to calibrate the blood pressure monitor I'd bought him. We never brought up Isabella again. He's a decent man. He knows exactly where the line is. A month after the divorce, she came to see me once. I'd just gotten back from a job site, still covered in dust. She was standing at the studio door holding a thermos. For a second it almost felt like years earlier, back when we were newly married. She used to pick me up sometimes, complain about how dirty the sights made me, and still wait by the door anyway. But the pride that used to sit behind her eyes was gone now. All that was left was caution. "I made soup," she said. "Your stomach's always been weak." I looked at the thermos in her hands. The worst stomach pain I'd ever had in 5 years hit me at 2 in the morning once. Alex had called drunk, saying he couldn't find his way home. She'd told me, "Just take some medicine," grabbed her keys and left. I went to the ER by myself that night. She came home at dawn and said, "Alex almost got himself in trouble. I had no choice." Now, apparently, she remembered my stomach was weak. I didn't need her to remember anymore. "Take it back," I said. Her eyes went red. "I didn't mean anything by it. I just wanted to see you." "You've seen me." I kept my voice even. "Isabella, don't come here again. We're divorced." She choked up. "I know. I can't help feeling we shouldn't have ended up like this." I looked at her. "We didn't end up like this overnight. It was every single time you told me to be the bigger person. Every time you asked me to endure it. Every time you put him ahead of me. One step at a time, that's how we got here." She let out a small cry. "I only understand that now." "Then hold on to it," I said. A flicker of hope showed in her eyes again, right up until I finished the sentence. "Because from here on, we go our own ways." I didn't leave any room to argue with that. She stood there a long time. Eventually she set the thermos down by the door and turned to leave. I didn't pick it up. Half an hour later, the cleaning lady knocked and asked, "Mr. Kane, whose soup is this? Should I bring it inside?" "No," I said. "Just throw it out, please." She hesitated for a second, then didn't ask anything further. As the soup went down the drain, a faint trace of it lingered in the air for a moment. I looked back down and kept working on the drawings in front of me. There was no ache in it, just the feeling of an old chapter finally, completely closed. 6 months later, I took on a renovation job for a homestay on one of the old streets. Small project, but an interesting one. A retired couple wanted to turn their family's ancestral home into a small courtyard guest house for their daughter to run. The first time I walked the site, there was an old osmanthus tree standing in the courtyard. The wife told me, "That tree's older than I am. Don't you dare cut it down." I smiled. "I won't. Not everything old is useless. What matters is whether it's actually rotted through." Even as I said it, something about my own words caught me off guard. In the end, we kept the tree and built the whole courtyard around it as an open tea space. The day the project wrapped, the elderly woman took my hand and told me the courtyard felt like it had come back to life. I stood under the branches, watching the sunlight break through the leaves, and it struck me, life works the same way. Some things can be repaired, even worn down as they are. Others can only be torn out once they've rotted past saving. The last I ever heard of Isabella came through a screenshot a mutual friend sent me. Something Alex had posted. A photo of the courthouse entrance, with a short caption underneath. "Some people you only understand once you've lost them." What he gave wasn't part of love. It was all of it. Someone in the comments asked if he regretted it. He'd replied, "I do." I read it once and deleted it without leaving a comment. His regret was his business. Not looking back was mine. That evening, William texted me, "Isabella's leaving the city, starting over down south. She asked me to tell you she's sorry." I wrote back, "Wish her well." A moment later, another message came through. And I wish you well too, Kane. I sat looking at the screen for a second, then typed back 2 words. Thank you. Outside, the night had settled in deep. My studio light was still on. A new project contract sitting on the desk, a fresh cup of tea beside it. No arguments waiting for me, no accusations. No late-night calls asking me to come clean up someone else's mess. For the first time in a long while, I just had quiet. I think a lot of people imagine revenge has to be loud. Someone on their knees, weeping, every wound repaid 100 times over. But the truth is, the most complete kind of revenge is much quieter than that. The simply no longer needing him. No longer waiting on an explanation that isn't coming. No longer hoping he'll turn back around. No longer throwing yourself back into the fire the second someone says, I was wrong. The night of the general's birthday, Alex sat down in the seat of honor, and I picked up my bowl and walked to the kitchen. Everyone in that room thought I'd lost. What they didn't understand was that the moment I set that bowl down, I'd already gotten up from the table for good. Everything came back after that, piece by piece. The seat of honor went back to the general. The car came back to me. The house came back to me. Whatever money could be recovered was recovered. And Isabella, I gave her back to herself too. As for me, Kane Miller, from that night on, I belonged to no one but myself.